Okay, so after we've processed data, we choose a method to display it. And the reason we do that is because data is sometimes hard to read and pick trends and patterns and things like that. Whereas when we see a graph, we can really interpret it quickly and make some quick decisions on it. Categorical and numerical data are displayed, so that should be displayed in different ways. Okay, so the step of actually classifying the data is important because that leads us to how we're going to best display that data. Okay, so let's look at categorical data first. Now, the idea behind categorical data is that the sets of data are independent, or the categories for the set are independent of each other. And data clearly belongs to one category or another, like I either drive a red car or a green car. It's not like a red-green car. Well, I suppose I could, but anyway, that's not really the point there. It's either one or the other, red car, green car. Which one are you going to be? Okay, and one of the methods that we can use are the dot plot. Okay, so let's do that. The dot plots are evenly spaced to reflect frequency is very important. Okay, so, and the second thing is that when we put columns in, that they are also evenly spaced and labeled. So what we've got over here is some data from the 10D mathematics class that sat in F25 back in my first year at SAC 2014. Lovely bunch of girls. Now, this was their favorite color or reported favorite color from that particular year. Okay, so let's go ahead and process it. So first of all, we've got black as a favorite color, and there were 4 girls who liked black. Then blue was one of the other colors, that was 3. Green was 1, and that was 4 girls. Pink, good old pink, 1, 2, 3, 4. Purple was 3, and yellow 2. Okay, so what we're going to do is, as the advice suggests, evenly space the columns, which this scale has already done, and label them. So I'm going to put them down as black. Another column is blue. We got green, pink, purple, and yellow. All right, so we're going to put black. So what we do is we basically put a dot in to represent the first one. Note the spacing that we use on that dot, and then just keep the spacing roughly the same. Doesn't have to be perfect, but roughly the same distance apart. So there's our 4. We've got blue is 3, so 1, 2, 3. And so just keep the heights of those dots consistent with the matching one over to its left and right. Green now is 4, so it should go the same height. Pink was 4. Purple was 3. Yellow was 2. Okay, and again, off this data or off this chart, we can quickly see that really, if I was to talk about the favorite color in 10D, I would say that there's no real universally accepted favorite color, that the girls vary in their tastes. Okay, let's have a look at a different form of graph. So this one here is going to be a column graph. Okay, so what we're going to do is got the frequency, how often it happened over here, and the score. Okay, and what students have done here is rated themselves in terms of their cooking skills. Okay, so let's sort this data. So I'm just going to highlight it and go sort by column C. Okay, and then what that will do is just get those cooking skill ratings in order. Okay, so we've got 3 girls, so a frequency of 3. Are rating themselves 1 out of 5, we're presuming. So level of cooking skills of students in 10D, we probably should say out of 5. Okay, now these need to be ruled, so I've freehanded them. I can't use a ruler for what I need to do here, so I've got to freehand these, but yeah, you guys need to rule these up. That's really important. Okay, now notice that the labeling of the column happens roughly in the middle of the column. Okay, so that 1 falls roughly in the middle of the column. Don't label it too far to the left or the right, so it has to be in the center. All right, so the gap that I've chosen really does need to stay consistent. So I've chosen a gap like that. I'm going to choose the same gap to represent the 2's, of which there isn't any. Now that's important that I still put it in there because it says no one rated themselves a 2 out of 5 for whatever reason. So that's that one. Then we've got a 1 unit gap, and then we've got the 3's. That's 4. Okay, so again, note that the column has to be of the same width. Okay, the 4's, how many of them? 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 4 of them. And 5's, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Wow, like 5-star chef class, this one. Okay, so again, I implore you use a ruler for that. Some students choose to color these in afterwards. That's just window dressing. You can do it if you want, if it makes you feel better. Okay, but doesn't need to be done. Okay, draw a column graph bar chart for the data collected about favorite film genre. Ensure all axes are labeled. So what we're going to do is this time we're going to put the frequency on the x-axis and fave genre on the y-axis. Right, so again what I'll do is just highlight this and sort it to make it easier to process. So we're going to go sort. This is in Excel, so just using that program there to do some of the sorting for us. All right, so one of our genres was action. So what I'm going to do is choose, or let's have a look at how many genres. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to choose like a spacing. So there's going to be my first, that's going to be my second, that's going to be my third, and that's going to be my fourth. Okay, and this will easily fit in. All right, so let's do action first. So there is action, and that was going to be how many? 1, 2, 3. Now let's see. Rom-com appears to be the most common. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So let's count out how many we need. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Or we could go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, there, perfect. Let's do that. So we're going to go 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Small graphs or compact graphs tend to not look as good in my opinion. So if you can get it to cover as much of the Cartesian plane as you can, I reckon that's a good thing. Hey, that's just a personal opinion of mine. All right, so we're going to get this one to go up to 3. Okay, so again, use a ruler to do this. Whoopsie, where did it go? Okay, comedy, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, it's pretty ordinary. Horror. Can't watch horror movies myself. I was way too young when I watched a movie called Silence of the Lambs, and it scared me to a point where I didn't sleep for about 2 to 3 days. Girls, there's reasons for film ratings, and that one I should not have been watching. Anyway, let's get to go all the way up there to 10. Okay, so there we go. Rom-com clearly very popular back in 2014. Don't know what the rom-com hit was of that year, but certainly watched a few sort of Drew Barrymore type rom-com movies myself and secretly quite enjoy it. Now, what haven't I done here? I've got action. I need to put a label in for comedy. I need to put in a horror. And lastly, rom-com. Okay, and it should have a heading. So favorite film genre of 10D 2014, just so that the current girls know that it's not representative of them. All right, so now on to numerical data. So if the piece of data we've collected is numerical, then it's either going to be exact if it's discrete data, that is, it's counted, or approximate. So we're going to take a measurement of it and approximate it if it's measured. Remember, measurement is always going to be some form of approximation. It's very hard to get an exact measurement with, say, a measuring tape. Now, the sequential ordered values, both ungrouped and grouped, need to be represented in ways that reflect this. And what we generally do is, or one method to do it in, is a histogram. Right, so here's a couple of key points with histograms. Okay, so this data here, I can tell straight away from looking at this graph that we've got ungrouped data. Now, the reason I know it is by the labeling or the numbering here. So notice that I've got 0, and 0 happened 6 times. 1 happened 7 times. 2 happened 4 times, etc., etc. Now, the other thing is that I know straight away that this is numerical data because you notice that the columns have no spacing between them. And that's what we call a histogram. Okay, so it's very important not to call that a bar chart. Okay, so these are bar chart. That's a bar chart there. Okay, that's a bar chart. But this one here, that's a histogram. Okay, so it's very important that we refer to it by its name. Otherwise, the histogram might go ahead and get offended that you are labeling it under the same thing as a bar chart or a column chart, and it's not. Okay, so this is important to note because histograms represent numerical data and bar charts or column graphs represent categorical data. All right, now this one here, I can tell very quickly that it's group data. And the way I know that is notice that the column labels, this represents the interval from 5 up to, but not including 10. That's what that column is. And so what I'm suggesting here is that for whatever this is, histogram of number of passengers on each of 20 trips. So let's just imagine this is like a bus trip or something like that, that there were between 5 and 10 passengers on a particular bus once. There were between 10 to 15 passengers 6 times, 15 to 20 8 times, and 20 to 25 4 times, 25 to, and it's important to note that this is up to 30. It's not just 25 to 740 or something. That's 1. Okay. Notice that I can't tell you the exact pieces of data that made this up. I just know that there were 6 values between 10 and 15. They could all be 10 for all I know. I wouldn't have a clue what the exact data is. That's a limitation of grouping data as opposed to ungrouped, where I can tell you that 6 happened or 0 happened 6 times, 1 happened 7 times, etc., etc. Right, so let's draw. Okay, so here is the table that we're going to work from the previous lesson or the previous part to this lesson. So we've got uni participation rates grouped as follows. So what we're going to do is start this. What should we do here? Generally speaking, there's a gap to begin with a histogram. So you can see back here, we've got 0 to and 5 starts here, 5 to 10. There's no reason why that has to be the case. So let's just start here. We've got 0 to 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. Right, now notice that this width here represents the group 10 through to 20. So this is going to be university participation rates, and this will be the frequency. Right, so 0 through to 10 happened 7 times. Let's go and work out, so which one's the most? 8. I'm just going to do a count. 1, we got 1, 2, 3, 4. Don't think there's going to be enough for that, so we're going to go up maybe in intervals of 3. Let's go, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, let's do it. So 7. There's that one. 4. Now it's important to note that there's no gap in the columns because this is numerical data. Okay, gaps in the columns happens when their data is categorical. Right now up to 8. Then 3. Okay, then 0, so we're going to have nothing there, followed by 1. Now remember, a student back in the day when I was teaching over at Ulsh said to me once, you said that there wasn't allowed to be any gaps in a histogram. And so what she'd done is the situation arose in an assessment or in a task or whatever, I can't remember, where she saw a gap, so she removed the gap and shifted that over. And it's true, I did say that there's no gaps in histograms, but what I was actually referring to was between these columns here. Okay, there should be no gap there, no gap there, no gap there. There's allowed to be a gap. Well, there's no gap in a sense because there's no gap between this bar and this bar. The only thing is that the bar doesn't exist in the first place, okay? But this is perfectly acceptable, okay? So when I say that there should be no gap between the columns or the bars for a histogram, it's true, but I don't mean that literally, like anything with 0 as a frequency, you remove it. Right, so that's fully labeled and draw a histogram for the group data. Yep, that's all looking good. All right, so that is going to be enough at this stage for you guys to now get cracking on the work and go through those exercises that are set on Firefly.